Hi guys, welcome back to the sewing tutorial of this stylish keyhole design. So I'll be placing my center front pattern on my fabric. You can see my fabric is on fold. Then I'm using pin to hold my pattern paper to my fabric so that it won't shake. After doing this, I'll measure half an inch on all sides of my pattern paper of the center front for sewing allowance. I'll be cutting two pieces for this center front because I want my fabric to be the lining, because I want to use this same fabric for my lining. So I'll be cutting two pieces. Once I'm done with this, I'll move to the side front and I'll be cutting this separately. The side front is not cut on fold, so I'll be having two pieces of this. I will also measure half an inch on all sides. I'll measure half an inch all round for my sewing allowance. You can notice I am not adding sewing allowance to the other side of this piece. This is because I already added the sewing allowance when I was drafting out the pattern for this style. If you've not seen the tutorial on how to draft this pattern, the link is in the description box. In case you're wondering what fabric I'm using, I am using crepe and it is 3 yard. I am using 3 yard for this style. I'm cutting another piece for the side front to serve as my lining also. For the yoke part, I'll be cutting on fold. I'll place my fabric on fold and cut the yoke part. I'll measure half an inch all round. I'll measure half an inch all round as my sewing allowance. Then I'll be cutting two pieces for this yoke. One will serve as my lining. For the first time viewers, you are highly welcome and I hope you are enjoying this tutorial. You can check all other videos on my channel to see if it is something you are interested in. To the returning viewers, thank you so much. You guys are really great. I really appreciate. Thank you for the comments, for the likes, and for the share. And to our subscribers, you guys are really great. I really appreciate you guys for your support. Thank you so much for believing in me. Thank you so much for believing in my tutorial and enjoying my tutorials. This is me cutting out the back pattern, and I am using the pin to hold my pattern onto my fabric for easy cutting. I already closing my dart on my pattern, so my back piece, my fabric also won't have that. I already added sewing allowance to my pattern when I was drafting it. So the holy side I'll be putting sewing allowance is the down part and the upper part of my back piece pattern. Also on the armhole side I'll be adding sewing allowance. This is because this tie is sleeveless and I'll be using the sewing allowance to turn in my sleeve area. That is why I am adding the sewing allowance to my armhole side. If you're going to put sleeve on your own, you don't need to add sewing allowance to it. For the basque part of the gown, I already added sewing allowance to both sides also. I'll be adding half an inch sewing allowance for the upper part of this basque. This is because I'll be using that to join it to the half bodice, and half an inch sewing allowance also for the down part of this basque to join to the gathers part of the gown. Trim out all excesses, and I'll be using the basque pattern to cut out the back piece also. The only difference between the front and the back piece is that for the back part of this basque, I'll be adding the zipper allowance because I did not add the zipper allowance to the back to the pattern when I was drafting out the front basque pattern, and I'm adding sewing allowance for the upper part and the down part just like I did for the front basque pattern also. I forgot to mention earlier, for the basque front piece you cut on fold, while for the back you cut separately, and this is the final look of the cutting for the front and for the back. Now we can head to our sewing machine for the stitching part. Open up the yoke piece with the right side facing each other and stitch along the length line and the down part of the yoke, just like I indicated with my finger. And for the other part of the front piece, the three sides you join together, just as you can see, and this is the final look after joining. And here I am notching the center part, and I am attaching the yoke also to the down part of the front piece. As you can see, I notched the yoke on the center part and placing the notched area together, and I am using pin to hold it together. After stitching, this is how it's supposed to look like. This is how it's supposed to be after stitching on the machine. Then for the lining part of the fabric, I'll be placing it on that like that with the yoke inside. Then I will run a stitch on it. I repeated the same thing for the back piece, and this is the final look of the front and the back piece after joining together. For the basque part, I will notch the center. Also, as you can see me doing on the screen, notch the center of the front piece I joined together, place the notched area together and take to the machine. And this is how it looks. I also repeated the same thing for the back, and this is how the back looks out. And please make sure you trim out all the excesses. Now I am heading to the sewing machine to join all sides together. This is the final look after joining. Now I decided to join my front and my back piece because I didn't want my gathers to have side cutting. So it is all your choice. If you want yours to have side cutting, you can attach your gathers to the front and the back piece and you join all together. To get the right measurement for my gathers, I will measure from the zipper part all through the down parts of these, and I'll be using that to cut out my gathers. Here I have 47.5 inches, and I'll be cutting double of that for my gathers. You can even triple the measurement depending on how full you want your gathers to be. To get my gathers length, I subtracted my shoulder to my bust measurement from my full gown length. I'm making my gathers manually to achieve the desired measurement, which is 47.5. When that is done, I attach the other part of the gown, and here this is the final look of my gown. I fine, I be I no fine, talk true. And I rocked my gown to church and everybody loved the style on me. Thanks for watching.